Hello.
Greetings. We're in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul's hymn to love, a hymn to God, really, about love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last time we did a little exposition of our own on this and talked about Jehovah's Witnesses, but now we want to talk about what the great commentators have said about this passage. So we want to pass along the benefit of what we've learned from people like Leon Morris, Frederic Godet, and Henry Drummond. I don't think we've mentioned Henry Drummond before. By the way, he's a Christian he wasn't even a clergyman, as I recall, which makes him rare among famous teachers.
Yeah.
But he was a friend of Dwight Moody, yes, the man after whom Moody Bible Institute is named.
Yeah.
And extremely influential. And this book that we're quoting from today is among the most popular Christian books of the last 130, 140 years.
Yeah. I think it was the second Christian book I read.
Mm.
So I read Lewis's Mere Christianity, and then I think I read this one, The Greatest Gift.
The Greatest Thing in the World.
Oh, The Greatest Thing in the World. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, that book is so popular that it's been reprinted even by Hallmark, and not just Christian publishers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very
just,
little book,
yeah.
but it's just on this chapter.
Yeah.
Just on this one chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. We'll read it from the New World Translation again, right?
Okay. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a clanging gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and understand all the sacred secrets and all knowledge, and if I have all the faith so to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my belongings to feed others, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I do not benefit at all. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous. It does not brag, does not get puffed up, does not behave indecently, does not look for its own interest, does not become provoked. It does not keep account of the injury. It does not rejoice over unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away with. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away with. For we have partial knowledge, and we prophesy partially. But when what is complete comes, what is partial will be done away with. When I was a child, I used to speak as a child, to think as a child, to reason as a child. But now that I have become a man, I have done away with the traits of a child. For now we see in hazy outline, by means of a metal mirror, but then it will be face to face. At present I know partially, but then I will know accurately, just as I am accurately known. Now, however, these three remain: faith, hope, love. But the greatest of these is love.
Mm-hmm. Just to reiterate the force of the last argument when we went through this, looking at it through J.W. eyes, do they really believe verse 12? I want to reread that from the ESV. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. So far they're 0 for 2. They don't think they see dimly, and they don't think they'll ever see face to face Jesus Christ or God. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully. Well, you've been saying finished mystery from the beginning, claiming that you are the only ones who know. Even as I have been fully known. This is not about accurate knowledge then, I think you said in the last video.
Yeah, it's not about data collection.
This is about full knowledge.
It's the intimacy.
And it's full knowledge in the sense of relationship.
Yeah.
So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Now here's what Leon Morris has to say. And of course he's not talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. He's talking about the first line though, on the noisy gong and clanging cymbal part. He says there may be plenty of noise in a gong, but there is nothing more. The sound of gongs and cymbals would have been familiar at Corinth from their frequent use by devotees of Dionysus or Cybele. Interestingly, these are gods of what we might think of as religious riot.
Yeah.
People running through the hills tearing beasts apart, Dionysus. So what is he saying? This is not drawing illustrations out of the air. This is what they were used to in form of their religious rituals to stir up their emotions, but that's it.
Yeah.
Not to inform them or give them knowledge of the true God. And then on the next page he says, it is not touchy. That's Philip's translation of this. This love that Christians are to have is not easily provoked or provoked. It is not touchy, Philip says. Not ready to take offense. And then you think, well, the religion that we were part of trained you to take offense. Before you even talk to people, you've decided that they don't know anything and they should listen to you and you shouldn't listen to them.
Yeah.
That paranoia, by the way, which was there when I was in 50 years ago, seems to be endemic now. Like witnesses are being taught not to dialogue with anybody. And then he says, love is always ready to think the best of people, Morris says. Well, that's not what we were trained to do either, is it? Does not impute evil to them.
Yeah.
So we've already decided those people can't be anything but evil because they're in a false religion.
Yeah.
So this idea of Christianity being not easily provoked, Godet also dwells on this passage, talking about the contrast between the gifts that Paul puts at the top of the list and the gifts he puts at the bottom of his list. He says, hitherto the apostle had put the gift of tongues at the end of each of his lists. And that's in chapter 12. Here he puts it foremost, because now he rises from the least valuable to the most useful gift. To give assurance of his perfect impartiality in the valuation he proceeds to make, he supposes himself exercising this gift, as indeed he really possessed it in a rare degree. In other words, he does claim to speak in tongues more than they do, in chapter 14, verse 18. And Godet says, and to express its insufficiency more forcibly, he does not consider it only as it appeared in the church of Corinth, and was an object of ambition to its members. He raises it hypothetically to the most magnificent realization of it possible. Paul supposes himself in possession of the languages of all thinking and speaking beings, terrestrial and celestial. This is when he says, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels. In other words, he has even superior gifts to what he already had. But it would mean nothing still, he says, if he had not love. Now here's Mr. Drummond. We want to put the screen on here.
Yeah, we didn't find the book, so we have to read it on screen. And it's a long quote, so be patient with me.
Again, this is from his little book, which is only, 100 pages maybe?
Yeah.
In big print?
Yeah.
The greatest thing in the world on this chapter 13.
Love is not easily provoked. Nothing could be more striking than to find this here. We are inclined to look upon bad temper as a very harmless weakness. We speak of it as a mere infirmity of nature, a family failing, a matter of temperament, not a thing to take into very serious account in estimating a man's character. And yet here, right in the heart of this analysis of love, it finds a place, and the Bible again and again returns to condemn it as one of the most destructive elements in human nature. The peculiarity of ill temper is that it is the vice of the virtuous. It is often the one blot on an otherwise noble character. This compatibility of ill temper with high moral character is one of the strangest and saddest problems of ethics. The truth is, there are two classes of sins of the body and sins of the disposition. The prodigal son may be taken as a type of the first, the elder brother of the second. Now, society has no doubt whatever as to which of these is the worst. Its brand, is that falls or fails? Falls.
False.
Its brand falls without a challenge upon the prodigal. But are we right? We have no balance to weigh one another's sins. Okay, sorry, I have to move the screen here. But faults in the higher nature may be less venial than those in the lower, and to eyes of him who is love, a sin against love may seem 100 times more base. No form of vice, not worldliness, not greed of gold, not drunkenness itself, does more to unchristianize society than evil temper. For embittering life, for breaking up communities, for destroying the most sacred relationships, for devastating homes, for withering up men and women, for taking the bloom off childhood, in short, for sheer, gratuitous, misery-producing power. This influence stands alone. Look at the elder brother, moral, hard-working, patient, dutiful. Let him get all credit for his virtues. Look at this man, this baby sulking outside his own father's house door. He was angry, we read, and would not go in. Look at the effect upon the father, upon the servants, upon the happiness of the guests. Judge of the effect upon the prodigal, and how many prodigals are kept out of the kingdom of God by the unlovely characters of those who profess to be inside. Now, I can remember being very convicted reading this because I have a temper. It's still something I struggle with, but this showed me how bad that is, how sinful that is.
Sin against love, as he puts it. Sin against love, yeah.
Yeah, it's not, when I was a witness, it was not something I worried about much. I knew I had a bad temper, but you'd always justify, you'd excuse your temper. Well, he made me mad. That was my usual response, instead of, yes, I shouldn't get mad. That's wrong. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the other person's fault. But I think being in the watchtower, it almost helped me to get away with that.
But of course, Drummond is not only speaking of anger here. He's talking about provocation.
Yeah.
The religion you and I were part of.
Pride was part of the problem.
Yeah, the religion that we were part of, we are predisposed to be provoked because we've already decided before we even meet a person what that person is like, because he's in the false religion, he believes these things, and therefore, so we excuse ourselves from not even engaging in dialogue with such people. So we don't even get to the point that Henry Drummond is dealing with here, that Christians who are part of a fellowship together and do regard each other as Christians should never be getting provoked. And we shouldn't excuse provocation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because love, that's the whole point of this chapter, isn't it? Love conquers all. Love is the one thing that will last. And if we feel ourselves superior to someone else because of the knowledge we claim to have, well, that knowledge will be done away with. But love has to prevail.
And I think when he talks about sins of disposition, I think he said disposition, and sins of the body, you know, we were trained to think it's the people who are immoral, they're really bad. You know, I don't do that. But you don't take a look at yourself and see the arrogance, see the pride.
Yeah. The pride, yeah.
See the, you know, I'm doing everything right, so, you know, I'm doing all the moral things right, the body things right. And that allowed you to look down upon other people. Even if you didn't say it, that's the way you were thinking.
And it all again goes back to verse 12. Why are we why are we clanging cymbals and noisy gongs? Because we don't think we see dimly. We think we know in a way that nobody else knows. And you can't love people if you can't see that they have something to offer you.
Yeah.
Not just you them.
I don't think reading the story of the prodigal son that we would ever think of the elder brother as being in the wrong. We would think of him as being in the right because he stayed, he did the right things. We would be on his side.
Yeah.
And not see that he was being totally, like, what did he call him? A baby. You know, like he's not being generous to his brother, to his father, to the people around him. He was judgmental.
Yes, he's now a voice of discord where everybody else is invited to celebrate the return of a sinner.
Yeah.
Who is a sinner, for sure.
In the case of witnesses, when somebody is reinstated, I think there's, the people that I've talked to who were disfellowshipped and reinstated said they never felt at home after that.
Yeah.
They never felt the same. They were always viewed with suspicion and, just caution always around them. They never felt genuinely accepted back. And that's a shame. That's a sad thing. So that last line there about how many prodigal sons are left feeling that way so that they're not welcomed back.
Yeah, the last sentence again, in case you've forgotten. Judge of the effect upon the prodigal, and how many prodigals are kept out of the kingdom of God by the unlovely characters of those who profess to be inside.
Yeah.
So I think we can add this book, The Greatest Thing in the World, to our basic Christian library.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Do we have a link, though?
I don't think we do. We probably have a video on the prodigal son.
We'll throw something up, right?
Yeah. Okay.
See you next time.
Oh, I don't know. You'll have to do this.
All right, let's turn this off. See you next time.
Sorry.